Welcome to this ASMR edition of Tales from Outer Space, where we like to take stories from space from around the internet and read it aloud for your entertainment. Psych, that's not happening. We're doing this with energy. With energy, I'm telling you. Subscribe, damn it, and all that other YouTube stuff. All the links will be down below as per usual. And as always, I hope that you enjoy. I just want to give a quick thanks to the Tier 5 channel members and patrons. Bob the Dragon, Datamagnet, Sergeant Puma, Cat Crab Lobster, and Duck Machine. Thank you very much for the support. It is much appreciated. Story number 1. Mediocre, written by IR Good at Writing. When the demons opened a gateway to our world, each race fought back in their own way. The obsidian portals first appeared in the elven homelands, spreading chaos and ruin across the countrysides. Elven mages, whose arcane talent was unparalleled, cast spells that shook the earth. Mountains crashed upon the demonic hordes. Chasms that had no bottom swallowed entire armies, and waves that touched the clouds washed over the land. Still, there was no use. As the elven cities burned, the Emperor of the Elves was approached by man. "Mighty Elves," man said, "teach us your magical power, so we might aid you in these dark times." The Emperor, who normally regarded man as a short-lived and simple people, accepted the request out of desperation. Man's brightest minds were taught how to warp existence to their will, but the elves were unimpressed. A single elven mage could wield more power than 100 human wizards. The lands of the elves were overrun by demons, and those that didn't run or hide behind tall walls were killed. Man only gained a mediocre understanding of magic. Next, the portals opened in the scorching badlands of Orcs and Goblins. For the first time in known history, the tribes cast aside their hatred of each other and banded together. A green tide washed over the demons, hills of monstrous, otherworldly bodies formed after each battle. Orcs competed to see how many dozens of demons they could slay, while their goblin leaders commanded the hordes to strike in coordinated offensive across the Badlands. The warlord of the entire army, a cunning and ingenious goblin, was approached by man. "Tales of your battlefield knowledge have reached every corner of the world," man said. "We wish to learn your tactical wisdom. In exchange, our wizards will aid you in the battlefield." The goblin warlord regarded man with his beady eyes. They lacked the strength of any orc and the wit of a goblin, but any help was welcome. The warlord accepted. Together, man, orc, and goblin marched on the demons. Orcs cleaved through demon after demon, while human wizards called lightning from the sky and hurled fireballs into enemy ranks. Goblin commanders explained how to break the flanks of enemy army, how to encircle and rout them. When man tried to mimic their tactics, the goblin warlord was not impressed. Ambushes were always executed a hair too soon or too late, and encirclements were always smaller than he would have liked. After years of constant warfare, the orcs and goblins were worn down. Every day, the demons pushed further into the Badlands until the orcs and goblins were almost completely driven from their ancestral home. All but the most stout holdouts were lost. Man's grasp of military tactics was mediocre. It was the dwarves in the mountain holds that were attacked next. The demons sniffed out their secret entrances and poured into the vast underground cities. The dwarves, having thousands of years to perfect their craft, fought back with black powder and master engineering. Cannons, rifles, and explosives annihilated any demon attempting to breach the sacred mountains. The king of the dwarves was approached by man. "We have fought many battles against the demons," the wizards, warriors, and tacticians said. "Allow us to fight once more." The king stroked his white beard. He couldn't deny their experience, but the weapons were crude, worse than the lowest quality dwarf craftsmanship, and the urging of his advisors, he agreed to the offer. In the mountains around the land,
man worked with dwarf against the demons. Wizards took the orders of commanders and channeled them into the ears of each soldier, allowing for instant communication across the battlefield. Human commanders positioned men and dwarves at narrow choke points, giving a dozen soldiers the strength of 1,000. However, the dwarves were too few in number, and their holds too vast. One by one, the demons took the mountains, forcing the men and dwarves to retreat into deep underground passages. In the last effort to stop the demons, the king of the dwarves told man the secrets of his people's craftsmanship. It was no use. Man could not come close to dwarven skill. Their black powder was imperfect. Their steel was inferior in strength. The last major dwarf hold fell to the demons, and man's knowledge of engineering was mediocre. The last bastion in the known world was the realm of man. Elves, goblins, orcs, dwarves, and humans prepared for the last battle. Wizards practiced their arcane arts with a handful of elven mages still alive. Human commanders conducted exercises against the goblin warlords that made out of the Badlands, orcs attacking and mock demons. The dwarves helped man set up assembly lines in the cities, mass-producing guns, armor, cannons, and ammo. Trying to help man was futile. The other races knew, but it was better than doing nothing. Then the obsidian portals opened. The demons rushed out to crush the last hope of resistance. They left one nightmare world and stepped into another. Magic, tactics, and technology combined to make man a deadlier force than any of the other races. Man couldn't rifle their weapons like the dwarves, so they used wizards to propel musket balls to unimaginable speeds and accuracy. Man couldn't cast spells as powerful as the elves, so the commanders told the wizards where and when their magic would turn the tide of the battle. Man couldn't command an army like a goblin, so they made up for it with overwhelming firepower. The commander would hide his forces in a forest, then bait a demon army to enter it. The commander's wizards would use all of their powers to mask the armies sent from the demons. Then, when the two armies were almost on top of each other, man would unleash a storm of steel and fire against the demons. All across the land, demonic hordes were losing ground, retreating closer and closer to the obsidian portals. Thousands of humans died in the fighting, but even more demons fell with each battle. Man, who excelled at nothing, was winning the war. Man reached the towering black monoliths, the root of all the world's pain and suffering. A flood of demons rushing through the portals. One last attempt to stop man and turn the tide back in their favor. It was no use. Man fought until there was no one left to fight. The battlefields lay silent. Besides the endless buzzing of flies where the fighting was the thickest. The world rejoiced. Celebrations went out for weeks in the largest cities and the smallest hamlets. Man was hailed as a hero. However, man could not rest. The obsidian monoliths still stood silent, waiting. As elf, goblin, orc, and dwarf went back to their homes to rebuild, the portal still loomed over the realm of man. In the back of his mind, man knew that there would be no peace with the unknown on the other side of the black abyss. So man rallied its wizards, tacticians, engineers, and soldiers, and took the fight to the demons. End of story. Story number 2. They Seem So Weak, written by Lords of Jude. Council members of the Pan-Galactic Federation all have seen the enemy, and they are numerous, joyful in their adventures, and unwilling to listen further. All have felt the stinging rebukes of every foray into their growing domain, and come back weaker for it. There's not yet been a failure to learn. There has been a failure to adapt. Take the esteemed council lead of the Deny Heartworlds. For the 7th solar cycle in a row, they attempted to enter the sovereign space occupied by the humans and establish their, and I use this word with hesitation, processing stations, which transition prisoners into both workforce members as well as food. when the humans sent all of those rather impressive ballistic missiles into their naval and marine barracks with force enough to see them detonate in their respective atmospheres. This should have clued the Deny into reverse their plotted course and cease the plans for Year 8. That the Deny are here to petition for PGF relief is a telling indicator that they did not adapt. Instead, they learned about the decency and civilized treatment of others, and demonstrated none of the lessons. Furthermore, there is an issue of the Absiu, who first encountered the humans as they patrolled the shared borders of their then stagnant, hard-walled lines, and became enlightened that the probes would be returned in component form to any and all of those attempting to intrude on human domain space. When the humans grew tired of disassembling those probes and chose to begin firing off barrages of kinetic kill weapons and struck reconnaissance bases at the periphery, most of whom had never been detected by even the fellows of the PGF Council, they were being taught a lesson in privacy and respect. That further barrages were apparently needed as the human sovereign space was disrespected again and again, necessitating the emergency evacuation of 2 occupied platforms in high orbit around a gas giant is, once again, demonstration enough that the tactics did not evolve, only the whinny noises made by the aggrieved parties. As for my own people and their long-standing grudge against the humans for the issues arising out of the attempted colonization of their homeworld and resulting counter-assault which took out every satellite and station over our homeworld, I can say this: we have learned from the humans. We have accepted a new world as it is not what was, and we are joining their newly minted organization immediately. You, with your hidebound legislative paralysis, your interminable complaints, and petty, pointless secrets, are not invited. They are calling this organization first and foremost a school, and we will be proud pupils, for we have, at long last, found worthy teachers. As a farewell gesture, we are locking the station in temporary quarantine, and each of you possesses a section of the release code, which is the second most important part of this discussion. The most important part is this. In 10 minutes after this video ends, a combination of ballistic kill weapons, nuclear-tipped missiles, and reconstructed satellite probes will strike this station, and likely see it fall as a burning star to the convocation world beneath it, witnessed by the remaining members of the Pan-Galactic Federation. May you choose to adapt and share rather than keep secrets. Here endeth the lesson. End of story.
And that, my friends, concludes this dose of science fiction fun. I hope that you enjoyed, and if you did, please don't forget to support the author from the link down below. But if you want to support this channel, there are links as well down below for you to help with. But the easiest way would be to share this video. And if you are so inclined, subscribe as well. I will see you all in the next episode, and I hope that you all have a fantastic time until then. Cheers.